Hey everyone, Math 6 3.1. Today we're talking about algebraic expressions and properties. So one important thing before we begin is we need to understand what something like 3x means. So what does 3x mean? Well, it actually means 3 times x, okay? 3 times x. So what would 4a actually mean? 4 times a. What would negative 10xy mean? It actually means negative 10 times x times y. We need to be able to understand that when you have a number next to a variable, it actually means that number times that variable. Or two variables next to each other mean, in this case, xy meant x times y. Okay? So if you're good with that, you have what you need to be successful today. Alright, so quite a number of definitions here, one being algebraic expression. That's an expression that contains numbers, operations, and one or more symbols, and you could also say variables, okay? So up there, when we said 3x, okay, that is an algebraic expression, okay? There's a number, there's a variable, and there's actually an operation there. Do you know where it is? Well, remember we said 3x actually means what? 3 times x. So number, an operation, and a variable. It's an algebraic expression. Now, a term is an individual part of an algebraic expression. So this actually is only one term right there, okay? So 3x is only one term, but if we had, 3x minus 2, there all of a sudden is a new algebraic expression with two terms. One of them is 3x, the other is actually negative 2, okay? So if we were to list the terms, we would say terms, colon, 3x, comma, what's the next term? Again, negative 2. We always look at it when we're asking about a term's sign. We always look immediately to the left. So what was 2 sign a minus, but we use it as a negative, so negative 2. Constant term, okay, is a term that is simply a number, right? So up here, what is the constant term? Here in 3x minus 2, the constant term was negative 2. And the coefficient, a coefficient is just a number that's multiplied by a variable. So what is the coefficient in this term up here? The coefficient would be 3, okay? So we're going to practice that a lot. Here we go. Alright, so I'm just giving you another example here. We're going to take it step by step. So 7x minus 9. The whole entire thing, which is why I put a bracket around the whole thing, is called an algebraic expression, okay? Numbers, operations, and variables, alright? So the whole thing, that's an algebraic expression. Alright, and so then again, next, we have terms. So 7x is a term, but notice this bracket here is not just around the 9, it's around the minus sign, so that's actually a negative 9. So if I said, what are the terms there? You'd say 7x and negative 9. Alright, so next we have constant terms, okay? So the negative 9 is the only constant term. Why? Because this term here includes variable. Constants are numbers only. Now they could be decimals, but it is not the 7x, just the negative 9. Alright, and then lastly, the 7 is the coefficient. Okay, now why is it a coefficient? Because it's a number that is being multiplied by a variable. Remember that 7x actually means 7 times x. So 7 is your coefficient. Alright, so what I want you to do is pause the video. I want you to copy this down and try it. I want you to list all the terms that you see here, the constant terms, and the coefficients, and see how you do. Okay, so when we list, we're going to use commas to separate things. Okay, so terms, the whole thing, actually the whole algebraic expression here, everything in there is a term. Okay, so we would say 10 is a term, comma, and what kind of 4m is that? It's a negative, so we say negative 4m. How about constant terms? Well, remember constant terms are only numbers, so 10 is our constant term. And then what about coefficients? What's the number being multiplied by a variable? Our variable is m. And what's being multiplied by it? The 4, right? Wrong. What kind of 4 is that? It's a negative 4. Okay, so there you go. Alright, so one more here. Give this one a try and see how you do. Alright, so I know there's an exponent in there, but that's okay. Alright, I think we can do this. Let's see how you did. So terms. Again, anything that's in there that has variable and or a number is going to be a term. So terms we can also think of as being separated by addition and subtraction terms. So, for example, b is not a term, right? But 2b is a term, and it's separated from the other term of 3a squared by an addition sign. So, our terms would be 3a squared, comma, and then positive 2b. And because that's a positive sign, that 2 is, because it's a plus sign, that 2 is positive, but I don't need to write the positive sign there or actually in front of the a squared. We understand they're positive. The only time you need to write a negative sign is if the number is actually negative, right? So for positive numbers, for example, 9, I didn't write, hey, that's a positive 9 like this. No, I just said that's 9. Okay, the sign is understood. Constant terms, we have none. There are no constant terms up there, okay? Zip, zero, zilch, nothing present. Why? Because there's no number up there that is only by itself, not attached to a variable, okay? That's a 3, but it's attached to an a squared. That's a 2, but it's attached to a b, which takes us to the next thing, coefficients. Are there any coefficients up there? Well, coefficients are numbers that are multiplied by variables. What does 3a squared mean? 3 times a squared. So the coefficient there is 3. There's also another coefficient here. It's 2. Why? Because 2b means 2 times b, and so the 2 is the coefficient. One other handy thing we need to have, in our tool belt, so to speak, here in this chapter is rewriting expressions using exponents. And I think you guys are going to be okay on this, but if you were given the expression p times p times p times p, how can we rewrite or simplify that? We just write that as p to the 4th. Why? Because there were 4 p's right there, so p to the 4th. What about something like 9 times x times x times x? How do we rewrite that? Well, the 9 and the x's aren't combinable, right? Okay, so we're going to write 9, but then we can kind of use what we learned up here and apply it down here. How many x's are there? There's 3 of them, so we're going to write that as x to the 3rd. All right, so next we're going to work on evaluating expressions when we're given some values. So we have 3 expressions here, and we're going to evaluate them when the values of their variables actually represent numbers that we know. Okay, so anywhere we see an A, it's going to mean 2. Anywhere we see a B, it's going to mean 5. And anywhere we see a C, it's going to mean 12. So what does 3A mean? Well, we know that 3A actually means 3 times A, right? That's a time sign, sorry there. Okay, but A actually means what? 2, right? So this is actually going to turn into a 3 times a 2, which is what? 6. Easy as that. So why don't you pause the video, and I want you to try these two and just see how you do. Okay, so 4b we know means 4 times b. So I'm going to do 4 times b, and then we're going to subtract the c. All right, now I'm going to plug in. Well, we know that b is actually 5, right? So instead of 4 times b, it's actually 4 times 5 minus then the c. Well, what does the c equal to? It's 12, okay? So now we have to obey order of operations, right? Got to multiply before we subtract. So that there is going to get you 20 minus that 12. And what is 20 minus 12? It's 8. And then here on the third one, c over a plus 2b. Well, c over a, that's like saying c divided by a, right? So we can leave it in a fraction if we want. So I'm going to, and I'm going to say c, what we know is 12, divided by or over a, we know is 2, plus 2b. Well, 2b means 2 times b. So it'll be 2 times what? The 5. Okay, so we got division, we got addition, and multiplication. We remember that division and multiplication have the same level of importance, so we do whichever one comes first, all right? So let's go ahead and do the division. And what's 12 divided by 2? It's 6 plus, now let's do the multiplication. What's 2 times 5? Okay, you're going to get 10. So then lastly, we just have to add. What's 6 plus 10? 16. Alright guys, that's all I got for you on this video. I will see you in class.